So this is our next chapter, breathing and the gaseous exchange. So as all of you know that the two terms generally used, one is respiration, another is breathing. So what is respiration? Already you complete respiration in plant in your class 11. So what is respiration? Respiration means the process by which the energy is produced by breaking down from the glucose or that kind of substance, either from the monosaccharide, either from any kind of protein substance, or either any kind of lipid substance. So respiration is a kind of process where these kind of products are breaking down and thereby the energy is produced. Okay, so breaking down, as you know, that during glycolysis, what happened during the glycolysis? That glucose undergo in a several pathway, and thereby it will convert into two molecule of pyruvic acid. Okay, and this pyruvic acid during the TCA cycle, okay, during the TCA cycle, it participate in a cyclical pathway, and thereby ATP is produced. Okay, and CO2 is produced. CO2 is produced. So this is I am talking about during glycolysis and TCA cycle. Although in our class during that time of class we yet not complete the respiration in plant. So let's see, the respiration is basically two types. Remember, respiration is basically two types. Okay, one is cellular respiration, another is physiological respiration. One is cellular respiration, another is physiological respiration. One is cellular. The first one is cellular respiration. Another is physiological respiration. Physiological respiration. So one is cellular, another is physiological. So cellular respiration basically two types: in presence of air and in absence of air. So one is aerobic respiration, another is anaerobic respiration. So anaerobic means absence of oxygen. Okay, anaerobic means absence of oxygen. So aerobic respiration basically divided into glycolysis, glycolysis and TCA cycle and TCA cycle. Aerobic respiration, it's divided into two pathways. First is glycolysis. First is glycolysis. Another is fermentation. Fermentation. Okay. So one of the important question, many of the students that you know, that during our breathing, what we usually do, that a normal process that we take the oxygen and liberate the carbon dioxide. And as per the normal concept in nature, there are so many oxygen molecule. So we have no problem with the oxygen molecule. But the problem is that, is there any production factory inside of us for carbon dioxide? where we generate the carbon dioxide? The answer already I told you. During the ATP production, that means during the TCA cycle, ATP are produced. But as a byproduct, carbon dioxide also produced. And that carbon dioxide is toxic for our body. That's why we need to liberate it by physiological respiration. So this physiological respiration is called as a breathing. So let's see the process. So during glycolysis, what happened? Glucose. Every lysis means breakdown. Okay, glyco, sorry, glyco, glycolysis. So glycs means sugar, breakdown of sugar component. Okay, so here glucose is, as you know, that glucose is a C6 compound. It's formed two molecule of pyruvic acid, two molecule of pyruvic acid. This is the process of glycolysis. So one of the major question that generally asked that how many oxygen molecule required to complete the glycolysis? Just do remember that question. How many oxygen molecule required to complete the process of glycolysis? The answer is zero molecule. Why zero molecule? Because here you can see glycolysis is the first step of the aerobic respiration and also the first step of the anaerobic respiration. So whatever the respiration is, the glycolysis will be the first step. So it does not depend on the oxygen molecule. Please do remember, it does not depend on the oxygen molecule. So that's why glycolysis will be the no oxygen molecule required during the glycolysis process. So number of oxygen molecule is zero. Okay, because this is the first step. So just see here, if glucose is present, if glucose is present in the media, then it will be converted into 2 pyruvic acid. 2 pyruvic acid. And the next step is called the fate of pyruvic acid. Fate of pyruvic acid means if oxygen molecule is present, if oxygen, see from here, two route. If oxygen molecule present, then it will lead to the TCA cycle. If oxygen molecule present, then it will lead to the TCA cycle. If oxygen molecule absent, if oxygen molecule absent, no oxygen, then it will lead to the fermentation. It will lead to the fermentation. So that's why this glycolysis process, it's not depend on the oxygen molecule. If oxygen present, then after the pyruvic acid formation, it will go to the enter to the TCA cycle. Or if oxygen molecule if oxygen molecule absent, it will go to the fermentation. If oxygen molecule present, it will lead to the TCA cycle. So glycolysis is not depend on the oxygen molecule. So now during the TCA cycle, that pyruvic acid undergo into Krebs cycle or TCA cycle, the actual motive of that cycle to generate the ATP molecule. And specifically, that TCA cycle occur, suppose this is a cell, this is the cell, that means cell membrane, and within that cell membrane, this is the portion of mitochondria, and that is the mitochondrial matrix. So TCA cycle actually takes place. TCA cycle takes place in mitochondrial matrix. Okay, remember that. So energy production process, that means the TCA cycle takes place in the mitochondrial matrix, and glycolysis takes place in the cell cytoplasm. Glycolysis takes place in the cell cytoplasm. So the in the mitochondrial matrix, the TCA cycle, the actual requirement of that TCA cycle is to produce the energy in the form of ATP, because ATP, you know, that is known as the energy currency. But during that process, CO2 is produced for the during the production of energy in the form of ATP. During that process, CO2 is produced, and that CO2 is toxic for our body. That's why we need to liberate it, okay, by physiological respiration. By physiological respiration. Okay, so through the physiological respiration, and that is known specifically as breathing, we liberate the carbon dioxide from our blood, and thereby oxygen molecule came for that particular TCA cycle. Okay, and as you know, because if we do the heavy work, what will happen in our muscles? That lactic acid fermentation will be there. So fermentation also basically two type. If it's in the animal body, it will be lactic acid fermentation. If it will be in the plant body, then it will be the alcoholic fermentation. Ethyl alcohol C2H5OH it will produce. Okay, so please do remember that is the actual relationship between the because that kind of information it's not given in the NCERT directly. Here I am combining the two chapter of plant respiration and animal respiration combinedly. Okay, so the overall concepts, why the CO2, what's the location where the CO2 is produced. So CO2 is actually produced inside of the mitochondrial matrix, and then it comes to the blood, and thereby through the breathing process we liberate the carbon dioxide. Okay, and for the TCA cycle oxygen is required, and if we do the heavy work, then oxygen molecule will not reach in the mitochondria, and thereby the shortage of the oxygen, so it will lead to the fermentation process. So glycolysis, it's not depend on any kind of oxygen molecule. In absence of oxygen or in presence of oxygen, glycolysis process will be occur. It's not depend any kind of oxygen molecule. Okay, but oxygen is required for the TCA cycle. If oxygen is not there, then it will lead to the fermentation. I think that concept is clear. So respiration and breathing, these two terms given in the NCERT book. So respiration means the process through which the energy is produced. That is known as the respiration. And breathing means that is the process of gaseous exchange. Okay, usually oxygen and carbon dioxide, these two types of gases are exchanged. Okay. So this particularly part, that respiratory organ, already you studied during the animal kingdom portion. So some of the organism, they have their general body surface for their respiratory organ. Okay, they have their general, they utilize their general body surface for their respiration. So usually they are the lower invertebrates, like sponge, that means the porifera, like the coelenterata, like the flatworm. So these are the organisms that they utilize their general body surface, like skin, or moist cuticle, like the earthworm. Okay, like the earthworm, like the leech, amphibian. So they utilize their skin. This type of question may come as column basis, like column 1, column 2. This type of question may asked. Okay, like the tracheal tubes, like the insect, they use their tracheal tubes. Okay, next, gill, fish, tadpoles, prawn, they use their grills as their respiratory organ. And lungs. Lungs, that means the most of the higher vertebrates, they use their lungs as their respiratory structure. Okay. So in case of human respiration, actually the respiratory structure is divided. Here you can see human respiratory system, air tract and pair of lungs. Air tract and pair of lungs. So these are the two human respiratory structure. So please do remember, because air passage, the conducting part, uh, just you need to remember these points. Please, you can take screenshot, or you may underline that portion, because the air passage, this type of question may given to orient, okay, to sequence it properly. So the gas enter to the external nostril. This is the external nostril part. So here, from here, the gas enter, then it goes to the nasal passage. Here you can see the nasal passage, okay. Here you can see the nasal passage, then the nasal chamber, okay, to the nasopharynx area. This is the nasopharynx area, to glottis, glottis to larynx, larynx to trachea, trachea to primary bronchi, primary to secondary bronchi, secondary to tertiary bronchi, tertiary bronchi to bronchioles, to terminal bronchioles, to respiratory bronchioles, last in alveolar ducts. So these are the alveolar ducts. So specifically, gaseous exchange takes place through that rounded structure. This is known as the alveoli. So please do remember, the terminal is known as the alveoli. Okay, so here you can see, this is the trachea, this is the trachea, then that is the primary bronchi. This is the separation. So primary bronchi, it's divided into secondary bronchi, secondary bronchi, it's divided into tertiary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, it's divided into bronchioles. Okay, so these are the types of division, type of pathway. So please do remember that proper orientation of the gas through which it travel, or the air passage. So this type of question may given to proper orientation. You need to orient in a proper way. So please do remember that particular pathway. Next, larynx. So as you know, that larynx is also known as the sound box or the voice box. Larynx is known as sound box or voice box. So it's a cartilaginous box. Okay, so that means it's not, it's made up with the kind of supported with the soft bones or the cartilage, which helps in the sound production. Okay, during swallowing, glottis and epiglottis is closed by the epiglottis. During swallowing, glottis is closed by the epiglottis to prevent the entry of the food. The trachea, all bronchi and initial bronchioles are supported by the incomplete cartilaginous half ring. So these are the cartilaginous half ring, and this half ring is known as the hyoid cartilage. Okay, although the name is not given here. So the vocal cords, we know the action of the vocal cords. So in case of the lungs, it's raised on the diaphragm. We will know that because we have to study the mechanism of the breathing, and in the mechanism of the breathing, that is the diaphragm, and it has important role in the mechanism of breathing during the expiration of gases and during the inspiration of gases. So the right lung has three lobes and left lung has two lobes. Here you can see the right one has three lobes, one, two, three lobes, and left one has only two lobes. Okay, so each of the lung covered by double layer pleura. Each of the lung is covered by double layer pleura. So the covering of lung is known as pleura. Covering of lung is known as pleura, and pleural fluid is present in between that two particular layer that actually absorb the mechanical shock. So the cover of the lung is known as pleura, and it is normally double membrane. So in between that two membrane, pleural fluid is present, which absorb the mechanical shock. Okay, so please do remember, here the right lung has three lobes left lung has two lobes. Another important point that comes, I just forget the year. It's I think in the 2013 year 16 second exam maybe. I just forget the year. That particularly portion is given. That particular portion, that notch-like portion is known as cardiac notch. Okay, it's present only on the left lungs. That particularly notch-like portion is known as cardiac notch, and that is present on the left lungs due to the presence of heart in that particular position. So a curve-like structure is present on the left lungs that is known as the cardiac notch, which actually seen in case of left lungs. Okay, so here from here the important points that you need to remember, that is the pleura, that is the covering of the lungs, and in between the two layer of the pleura, a pleural fluid is present which absorbs the mechanical shock. Now, here you can see the lungs is composed of bronchi plus bronchioles plus alveoli. These three combinedly it's known as the complete lungs. So lungs equals to bronchi, bronchioles and alveoli. This all it's known as the lungs. Okay. So alveoli and their ducts from respiratory or gaseous exchange part of the respiratory system. So alveoli, please do remember, alveoli is the structural and the functional unit of lungs. Alveoli is the structural and the functional unit of lungs. Okay, very important. So here you can see the internal structure of the lungs. Okay, primary bronchioles, secondary bronchioles, and the last will be the here this rounded small ball-like structure is known as alveoli. Okay, or alveolar sac. So these are the alveolar sac. Okay. So in that particular chapter, we have to study this process. So one is the mechanism of breathing. Okay, mechanism of breathing. Next is gaseous exchange between the lung and the blood. Next, gaseous transportation, gaseous exchange between the blood and the tissue, and cellular or tissue respiration. But within that chapter, we have to only study only that fourth part. But that fifth one, it's not included in that particular chapter. This is within the plant respiration chapter in unit 4. Okay, respiration in plant. In that chapter, process of glycolysis, process of TCA cycle, we have to study in the plant respiration chapter. But here we have to study on the mechanism of breathing, the first one. Next, how the gaseous exchange takes place in the lungs and the blood vessels, between the lungs and the blood vessels, between the tissue and the blood vessels, and how this gas travels through the blood. Okay, so these are the four part of this chapter. So the first is the mechanism of breathing. So before the mechanism of breathing, we need to know that there is basically two processes. One is expiration, another is inspiration. So what is inspiration? That is inhalation of the gases. So generally we take, because we have no particular filter for the oxygen. Okay, because as you know, in the nature the amount of nitrogen is very much high, but we have no particular filter in our nose that will filter only oxygen. So all the gases is present in the atmosphere, we generally inhale. So the process of inhaling is called as inspiration, and the inside carbon dioxide that we liberate it through our lungs, okay, and it goes out through the external nostril, that is known as the process of expiration. So the process or the mechanism of breathing is basically divided into the inspiration and expiration. Okay, inspiration and expiration. So these are the two processes. Now, in case of mechanism of inspiration, here you can see the structure of the diaphragm. That particular diaphragm, the structure, it's in the normal position. Okay, here you see the curved structure. So this curved structure, don't think that is constricted structure. That is the normal structure. Okay, the diaphragm, it's normally curved. Okay, this is in the normal resting phase. So, and these are the muscles. These are the muscles. This is known as intercostal muscles. Okay, intercostal muscles. These are the intercostal muscles. This blue color. Yeah, these are the intercostal muscles, and these are the ribs. That is the ribs. So in between the ribs, those muscles are present. That is known as intercostal muscles. Okay. So please do remember the important function of that three: intercostal muscles, diaphragm, and ribs. So what happened during the process of inhalation? See, if we inhale, so that means here the diaphragm moves towards this side and it will become flattened. So thereby you can see the inside area will be increased. Okay, inside area will be increased. So diaphragm moves from that curved structure to that flattened structure. So thereby the inside area will be increased. So the first step is the contraction of the diaphragm. Diaphragm become contracted or flattened from the that curved structure. Okay, and also the intercostal muscles contract. So if this finger, my finger is the ribs, so intercostal muscles also contract, comes inside, and thereby ribs goes outside. So ribs. So if I do like this, so ribs come outside and intercostal muscles become contracted, goes inside. So if diaphragm contracts, here you can see, as I told you, that the volume is increased. Volume increases. Okay. And if just external intercostal muscles contracts, so thereby ribs and the sternum lifts up. So lifts up means it's come on the outside. So volume on the dorsoventral axis increases. Okay, and you know what is anterior and posterior and what is dorsal and ventral. Okay, already that thing I clear it during the animal kingdom portion. So the total together, diaphragm contracts, external intercostal muscles contracts. So thereby the volume increase together, it increase the thoracic volume. So thoracic volume means the inside volume is increased. Inside volume is increased. Okay, but as if the area will increase, the pressure will decrease. Okay, so if the volume increases, then the internal pressure is decreased. So thereby the gas from the outside will come to the inside. Okay, so please do remember, initially diaphragm contracts, external intercostal muscles contracts. So thereby, due to the diaphragm contracts, anterior posterior axis volume increase. Due to the external intercostal muscles contraction, the dorsal ventral axis volume increase. So together, in combinedly, thoracic volume increases. And if thoracic volume increase, thereby the internal pressure decreases. Okay, so if the pressure decrease, so air is moved from the outside to inside. So that is the mechanism of inspiration. So the major three role of diaphragm from its contracted stage, just see by hand, if from its contracted stage if it become flattened, so sorry, it's from curved structure. Diaphragm initially it's relaxed, so during the relaxation stage, here it's looked like the curved structure, it's not contracted, it's a relaxed structure. As it will initiate to contraction, so thereby it will become flattened. So this flattened structure, this is the contracted stage of the diaphragm. So thereby it will move from this curved structure to this flattened structure. Okay. So this is the process of inspiration. And if you see the process of expiration, just the opposite. So here, external intercostal muscles or and the diaphragm both are relaxed. Okay. In the inspiration stage, both of them contracted. Here, both of them relaxed. So as they relax, so thoracic volume will decrease. If the volume decrease, so pressure will be increased. So if pressure increase from the inside to outside, gas will move. So the first part of the mechanism of breathing, that is the inspiration, thereby diaphragm contract, it's become flattened shape. External intercostal muscles contraction. Okay, so diaphragm and as external intercostal muscles contract, so thereby the inside thoracic volume increase and pulmonary pressure decreases, so thereby air moves from the outside to inside. This is the process of inhalation. During the exhalation, diaphragm and external intercostal muscles both are relaxed. So if they are relaxed, their inside volume, that is the thoracic volume, decreases. So as the thoracic volume decreases, pulmonary pressure will be increased. So if the pulmonary pressure will be increased, so air moves from the inside to outside. So this is the process of expiration. So please do remember these steps, because these steps are very important for our NEET question. So here you can see the process. Okay, during the exhalation and the inhalation. During the exhalation process and inhalation process, just see the steps. So the contraction of the diaphragm and the relaxation of the diaphragm. During the relaxation of the diaphragm, it's in the flat curved structure. During the contraction of the diaphragm, it will be in the uh, like flattened structure. Next portion, this tidal volume, respiratory volume and respiratory capacity, very much important for our question. And if you search from 2013 to 2020 question, from that particular part, you may find every year from that particular part. Okay, so we need to know that every definition and their particular graph and with the formula. So one is respiratory volume and respiratory capacity. Particularly, according to my suggestion, because that graph it's not given in the NCERT book. Okay, but if you draw that graph right now in your copy, it will be far better to understand the process of entire respiratory volume and capacity. My suggestion, you will only remember the respiratory volume. You need not to remember the capacity. But if you remember the volume, you can able to find out the capacities by your own. Okay, because you have to study physics, chemistry and biology, but after that 97 chapter, it will be very much difficult to remember this particular figure, specifically the new number like the 1100 ml, 1000 ml. So it's very difficult. So first, one by one, first remember that particular graph. See, just draw this graph in your copy, so it will be benefited for you. See, uh, this portion, the first is the tidal volume. So what is tidal volume? Tidal volume, it's also known as TV. So what is TV? Normal gas inhalation and normal amount of gas exhalation. This is known as tidal volume or TV. Okay, this is known as tidal volume or TV. So normal gas exhalation and or normal gas inhalation. Just to remember the definition: normal exhalation of gases and normal exhalation or normal inhalation of gases. So this amount is known as TV or tidal volume. And the amount of tidal volume is 500 ml. Amount of tidal volume is 500 ml. Okay, normal exhalation of gases or normal inhalation of gases, either any one, not both. Okay, either inhalation or either exhalation of gases. So that particular amount is TV or the tidal volume, and the amount is 500 ml. Okay, next, the amount of gas after the, just listen my definition, after the normal, that means after TV, I'm talking about after TV, after normal inhalation of gases, the amount of gas that we take forcefully, that is known as IRV, inspiratory reserve volume. So what is IRV? IRV means after TV, it's after TV, remember. This is IRV, inspiratory reserve volume. So inspiratory reserve volume means the after the TV, that means after inhalation of the normal gases, the forcefully the amount that we can take, that is known as IRV. Okay, so the amount of IRV, it's 2500 to 3000 ml. 2500 to 3000 ml, but the particular figure you will take from the NCERT. The particular figure you will take it from the NCERT, the actual figure. Okay, so the amount of TV, it's 500 ml. Amount of IRV, that is 2500 to 3000 ml. So what is ERV? ERV means after the expiration, after normal expiration of gases, forcefully the amount that we expire. So that is known as ERV. After the after normal expiration, the forceful expiration, it's called as ERV. Okay, so that amount is 1000 to 1100 ml. 1000 to 1100 ml. Clear? So TV means normal expiration or normal inspiration. IRV means after normal inspiration, forceful inspiration. ERV means after normal expiration, forceful expiration. And lastly, here you can see the amount of gas after the forceful expiration, the amount of gas which stay within the lungs, this is known as RV. Okay, reserve volume. So the amount is 1100 to 1200 ml. This is known as RV. So these are the pulmonary volume. So total is 4 types of volume here. You can see one, first one again, TV. So what is TV? Tidal volume. So tidal volume means normal expiration of gases or normal inspiration of gases, either normal inspiration or normal expiration. Okay, so this is known as the TV, and the amount of TV is 500 ml. What is IRV? Inspiratory reserve volume. So what is inspiratory reserve volume? After normal inhalation of gases, forcefully inhalation of gases is called as inspiratory reserve volume. So the highest amount, it's 2500 to 3000 ml. So what is ERV? After TV, so that means after expiration of normal expiration of gases, the amount of gas that we forcefully expire, that is known as ERV. So the amount is 1000 to 1100. And what is reserve volume? After forceful expiration of gases, the amount of gas which stay within the lungs, it's known as RV. So actually, just do remember, see, just I intake the gas, and thereby by the process of exhalation, the gas will oxide, carbon dioxide will comes to the outside. Okay, so again the process of inhalation of gases will occur, but there is a fraction of a time, minimum seconds is there between the first exhalation and the next inhalation. There is a fraction of a time. So this RV will help that time in the lungs to exchange the gases. So this RV is very much important. That RV will help for the exchange of gases when the first breathing and the second breathing, between that two breathing, there is a minimum time, fraction of a second, like, so in that time there is no gases that come from the outside to the inside. During that time, RV will help to exchange those gases. So this is very much important, the role of the RV within our body. So this 4 is the pulmonary volume, and only you have to remember this pulmonary volume, which in that particular picture I just draw with the red color. Okay, next is pulmonary capacity. If you remember this pulmonary volume, for you pulmonary capacity will very easy, very easy. Okay, so pulmonary capacity means the capacity of our lungs, okay, to hold the maximum amount of gases. The first one is IV, inspiratory volume. The first is IV, inspiratory volume. So this is the IV. So what is IV? IV means inspiratory volume. So just do remember, IV, inspiratory volume, equals to PV plus IRV. This type of question given in your exam. PV plus IRV. So IV means the total amount of gases that we can inhale or we can inspire. So that is known as IV. So normal inspiration is 500 ml. Normal inspiration is 500 ml, and forceful expiration, the volume is 2500 to 3000 ml. So the total range in between 3000 ml to 3500 ml. So that means 3 to 3.5 liter. Okay, so that is the IV. Sorry, IC, not IV. IC, inspiratory capacity. The capacity of lungs to inhale the maximum amount of gas. So normal inspiration, that is TV, which is 500 ml, and forceful inspiration, that is 2500 to 3000 ml. So the actual figure of the IC is 3000 to 3500 ml. I think it's easy. So the first one is IC, the maximum amount of gas that we can inhale, or the maximum capacity of the lungs that hold the maximum gases, that is the IC. Next, EC. EC means expiratory capacity. So expiratory capacity means same like the previous, PV plus, this is the EC, expiratory capacity. So expiratory capacity equals to PV plus ERV, TV plus ERV. Okay, so TV is 500, ERV is 1000 to 1100. So that means how 1500 to 1600, 1.5 to 1.6 liter. So that is the EC, expiratory capacity. Okay, combinedly the normal expiration plus forceful expiration. These two together, it's known as the EC. I think it's very much clear. Next, next is VC, vital capacity. Next is VC, vital capacity. So what's the vital capacity? Vital capacity, it's this, just see this. So how we can define that VC? VC equals to QV plus IRV plus ERV. So these three together as VC, vital capacity. So we can define this in two ways. The first way, if we take in case of inspiration, then we'll say like this. Just see that particular graph. We will say normal inspiration of gas, forcefully inspiration of gas, normal inspiration of gas, forcefully inspiration of gas, then after that forcefully expiration of gases. So normal inspiration, forceful inspiration, then forceful expiration of gases. This is known as the VT. Normal inspiration, forceful inspiration, then forcefully expiration of gases. That is known as VC. Or we can define like this, like normal expiration of gas, forceful expiration of gas, then forcefully intake of gas. So we can define in two ways, either in case of inspiration or either in case of expiration. Okay, so VC, the amount of VC or the vital capacity will be like, you can say this, we can define like this, QV plus IRV plus ERV, or IC plus ERV. See, what are the mode? Or IC plus ERV, this is another form. Or we can say like EC plus IRV. These three all correct. These three together all correct. Okay. So the mainly TV plus IRV plus ERV is equal to VC. But these two, IC plus ERV or EC plus IRV, it's not given in the NCERT. But this is some kind of tricks. Although it's very much easy, here you can see that PV plus IRV is equal to IC plus ERV. This is one possibility. Or PV plus ERV is equal to EC plus IRV. So if you do the three, the answer will be the same. The calculation will be the same, but the formula, it's only one, PV plus IRV plus ERV, but it may have two other possible combination. Okay, so the amount will be like 500 plus, if I take the maximum amount of the if I take the like a maximum amount of the IRV like 3000 plus maximum amount of the ERV, it's 1100. So the amount will come, 4600. That means 4.6 liter. That is in case of VC. So I think the VC is clear. Next is FRC. Next is FRC. So what is FRC? Functional residual capacity. functional residual capacity. This is FRC. So FRC, functional residual capacity. So what is FRC? Here you can see that ERV plus RV, ERV plus RV is equal to FRC. So ERV plus RV means, how we can define this FRC? Why this is functional residual capacity? What's the function? If we just think about the normal TV, so TV means inspiration of gas or expiration of gas. If I take the expiration of gas, so that means after normal expiration of gases, the amount of gas which stay within the lungs for the gaseous exchange, this is known as FRC. Please do remember. Again, I am repeating that one. What is FRC? Functional residual capacity. So, in which type of function this FRC is actually involved? After TV, that means after normal expiration of gases, the amount of gas which stay within the lungs and that helps for the gaseous exchange, this is known as FRC. Okay, functional residual capacity. So, what will be the uh, their volume? Their volume. Actually, ERV, if I take the maximum amount like 1100 plus RV, if I take the maximum volume of 1200, so it will be 2300 ml or 2.3 liter. So this is the FRC. Next, another one. Another one is TLC, total lung capacity. So total lung capacity. This is TLC, total lung capacity. So what will be the total lung capacity? PV plus IRV, all the volume, all the four volume will be included here. TV plus IRV plus ERV plus RV. So these four together will form the TLC. So TLC, the amount of TLC approximately it will come like 6 liter. Okay, if I calculate like 500, if I take the maximum, because together TV, IRV and ERV 4600 here it's already present. Look at that, these three 4600 plus, because already we have the calculation of VC is 4600 and RV is 1200. So it will 5800 ml approximately, it's a 6 liter of gas. Okay, so please do remember that one because very important, and every year if you search in the NEET question, if you search in AIMS, if you search in JIPMAR, whatever the entrance, and if that particular chapter is present there, that from that particular part one question will come every year. Okay, but that graph it's not given in the NCERT. So two part of that particular portion. One is pulmonary volume. So total pulmonary volume we need to remember only 4 volume. And if you remember the 4 volume, you can easily calculate the pulmonary capacities. So first volume, here all the red portion are the volume. PV, tidal volume, normal expiration of gas or normal expiration of gas, that is the tidal volume. IRV, after normal inspiration, the forceful inspiration of gas, the amount of forceful inspiration of gas is called as IRV. ERV, after the normal expiration of gas, the forceful expiration of gas, its amount is called as ERV. What is RV? After forceful expiration of gas, the amount of gas which stay within the lungs, it's known as the RV. So total four volume we need to remember. One is TV, IRV, ERV, and RV. Next, in case of capacities, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 capacity we have to study. First is IC. IC equals to TV plus IRV. So the capacity of inspiration is known as the IC. So normal inspiration of gas plus forceful inspiration of gas together combinedly, it's known as inspiratory capacities. And the amount is approximately 3 to 3.5 liter. Okay, then VC. So what is VC? Here you can see VC means that you can define it in two way. In first case, in case of inspiration, you may take like this, normal inspiration of gas, forceful inspiration of gas, plus forceful expiration of gas. Or you may take like this, normal expiration, forceful expiration, plus forceful inspiration of gases. So it may have two possible combination, IC plus ERV or EC plus IRV. So the number will be here 4600 ml, that is the VC. Okay. So another one is EC, normal expiration of gas. Forceful expiration of gas is called as EC. So the amount is 1500 to 1600 ml. Okay, so that is the EC. And in case of the FRC, what is FRC? Already I told you that after the normal expiration of gas, the amount of gas which stays within the lungs that helps in the gaseous exchange process, that is known as the FRC. So ERV plus RV is equal to FRC. The amount is 2300 ml. Okay, and the TLC, that means the capacity of the lungs that can hold the maximum amount of the gases within the lungs. So it's known as the TLC. It's approximately 6 liter. So I think that particular part, it's clear to all. If you have any doubts, just send me quickly in my chat box. So here you can see the TV. Okay, on your screen here you can see the TV. So TV means normal expiration or normal inspiration of gases is known as the TV. Okay, so it's approximately 500 ml. 500 ml. So what is IRV? Already I told you that the max after the normal inspiration of gases, the forceful inspiration of gases is known as the IRV. This is the IRV. Okay, 2500 to 3000 ml. Next, ERV. ERV means after the normal expiration of gases, the forceful expiration of gases is known as the ERV. Okay, and the RV. So the gas which stay within the lungs after forceful expiration of gases, the amount of gas which stay within the lungs, this is known as the RV. Okay, residual volume. Next, capacities. So IC together, TV plus IRV is equal to IC. So EC means here PV plus ERV is equal to EC. FRC means after the normal expiration of gases, the amount of gas which stay within the lungs for the gaseous exchange process. So ERV plus RV is equal to EC. Okay. VC means already I told you that TV plus ERV plus IRV. TLC, so total lung capacity to hold the maximum amount of gas within the lungs. This is known as TLC. Okay, I think that part is clear to all. So just see this, that the part of respiratory tract, not involved in gaseous exchange. So it is called as the dead phase. Okay, anatomical dead phase, that is the dead air, and the dead air volume, it's 150 ml. Okay, so the dead space, because here no gaseous exchange takes place. So this is the part where no gaseous exchange takes place, and the amount of the dead air, it's 150 ml. This is known as the dead air. Okay. So in case of the respiratory cycle, normal inspiration and normal expiration, that is the process of respiratory cycle. And in case of normal respiratory rate, that is 12 to 16 times per minute, that is the normal respiratory rate. 12 to 16 times per minute. And usually the on your screen here you can see the respiratory spirometry, that is, or spirometer, that is used for the respiratory rate. Okay, and during the time of corona, you know that many of us have the lung disorder. So our breathing rate is actually detected properly by that particular machine, and many of pulmonologists, they are using that particular machine to detect the rate of the respiration. So this is the respiratory spirometer, and the normal respiratory rate is 12 to 16 times per minute. Okay. This is the portion that from that particular chapter, the question that asked in the last year from 2013 to 2020. See, this is the question. So from the first portion, see the question that in the last year, that select the correct event that occurred during the inspiration. So four particularly statement is given, that question from 2020, and just find out the answer. So quickly tell me that that within that particular four statement, which of the statement, either four here in the B option, all three statement are correct. Okay, one, two, and four. In the option D, one and two correct. Option C, only four correct. Option A, three, and four correct. So fourth statement is given. Just select from the mechanism of inspiration which of the statement is correct. Just quickly send your answer in my chat box. Which of the statement is correct? Contraction of the diaphragm. Contraction of the diaphragm. First statement is contraction. Already I got the answer. First statement, it's contraction of the diaphragm. So during inspiration, diaphragm contract, yes or no? First thing this. Next, contraction of the intercostal muscles. Next statement, that contraction of the external intercostal muscles. The third statement, pulmonary volume decrease. Pulmonary volume decrease. Next, intrapulmonary pressure increase. Pulmonary volume decrease. Intrapulmonary pressure increase. Contraction of diaphragm, contraction of external intercostal muscles, pulmonary volume decrease. Fourth is intrapulmonary pressure increase. Quickly send your answer. So I got the right answer from all of you, from those who have sent me the answer. See, a contraction of the diaphragm, it's correct. Because diaphragm contracted. Initially, the diaphragm shape is like this, okay, curved structure, and as the inspiration process begins, it comes to the flattened structure. So flattened structure means diaphragm actually in the contracted stage. So the first statement is correct. Second statement, contraction of the external intercostal muscles. This statement also correct. This statement also correct. Okay. Next, pulmonary volume decreases. Not. Why pulmonary volume decrease? Because see, if that is the combination of the two lungs, and initially the diaphragm is that shape. So see the area is decreased here. But as it becomes to the flattened structure here, that is the flattened structure, so thereby the area will increase. So area increase means volume also increase. So pulmonary volume decrease, this is not the correct answer. Intrapulmonary pressure increase. No, if area or the volume increase, so pressure will decrease. So here the pressure increase is given. So that is not the correct statement. So statement 1 and statement 2, these two are the correct statement. So 1 and 2, that means the option D is correct. Okay, that is the question from 2020. Here you can see the next question already answer given. Select the correct statement, that is from the 2019 Vision It. Expiration is initiated due to the contraction of the diaphragm. Obviously not. Obviously this is not the correct, because not due to the contraction, because this is due to the relaxation. Expiration occurs due to the external intercostal, due to the external intercostal muscles. No. Interpulmonary pressure is lower than the atmospheric pressure during the inspiration. Yes, the inside pressure is actually lower than the outside pressure, so that's why the gas comes from the outside to inside. Inspiration occurs when the atmospheric pressure is less than the intrapulmonary pressure. No. So option 3, it's right answer. Already answer is given here. Next, 2000, see, back to back 2019 Vision It from the same particular chapter, 2 question. Maximum volume of air a person can breathe after a forceful expiration is known as. Maximum volume of air a person can breathe in after a forceful expiration is known as. Tell me your answer quickly. Send me quickly. The maximum volume of air a person can breathe in after a forceful expiration is known as. Obviously, total lung capacity. It's not the right answer. Maximum volume of air that a person breathe in after forceful expiration. Expiratory capacity, this is also not the right answer. Within C and D. So, as the answer I received, all of you are correct. Yes, it's the answer C, vital capacity. It's answer C, vital capacity. It's not the inspiratory capacity. Okay. So, inspiratory capacity is equal to TV plus IR. Next question. Tidal volume and expiratory reserve volume of an athlete is 500 ml and 1000 ml respectively. What will be the expiratory capacity if the residual volume is 1200 ml? This is from the question 2019, and that question is very tricky question. Those have attained, I don't know if anyone have attended the 2019 NEET, that question is very much tricky. So here, the tidal volume TV, it's given as 500 ml, and ERV, expiratory reservoir volume, is 1000 ml, 1000 ml. So what will be the expiratory capacity? What will be the expiratory capacity if the residual volume, is given as 1200 ml? See, many students confused with the residual volume. Many students become confused with the residual volume. That is the tricks of that question. Because as you know, that EC is equal to expiratory capacity is equal to TV plus ERV. Here, no part of the RV. There is no part here with the RV. So the volume of RV, it's only given to confuse the students. So EC is equal to 1500 ml. So the correct answer is option 1. Option A is correct. Okay, because here ERV is given, TV is given, so they only asked you the amount of EC. Okay, so RV is given to confuse the students, because in the case of EC, expiratory capacity, there is no place in case of RV. Okay, so please do remember that type of question may asked in your time, because from that part it's very important in need, particularly pulmonary volume and pulmonary capacity. Next day we'll again practice some of the MCQ. So for today